Bob Thomason is in his 17th year as the head coach at Pacific in Stockton, California. The 71 alum has guided his team to the best overall record in the last 2 years in Division 1A. His starting five is global. Karakic, along with Guillaume Yango, Marker, and Mihailovic, and David Doubley is the Big West Player of the Year at the point. Lorenzo Romar, 10 years removed from being an assistant on this floor when Tyus Edney went end-to-end for Jim Herrick in a national title year. Now he has his team a top seed with Bobby Jones, Jensen, Trey Simmons, Nate Robinson, and Will Conroy, his starting five. And the officials for today's Game 1 here in Boise: Mark Whitehead, the referee, Donnie Gray, and Michael Stewart. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, happy to have you with us. Already one outstanding second-round game in the books. Texas Tech taking Bob Knight into the Sweet 16 for the first time since '94. We'll see what happens in this one.
Some interesting contract speed and quickness of Washington against the length of Pacific. Which tops the other?
Ray Simmons leaves it for Jensen. He has range, and he drops through a tray.
And everybody's going to participate in this offense, Tim. They have 5 guys averaging double figures, 2 others just underneath it, and that showed up in their first-round win against Montana as well. They really distribute the ball nicely.
Yeah, they made their first 7 shots against the Grizzlies in the opening round game, and they've made their first here. Roscoe Karakic takes it inside the lane, and he gets bumped. Foul will go against the Huskies.
One of the things Lorenzo Romar talked about yesterday, defensive discipline. This Pacific team so very good at running their offense and running their sets. You really can't take many chances against them. They'll make you pay.
What is it he said? They're the most efficient offensive basketball team we'll play.
That he's seen, period.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with him. I haven't seen them on tape in the last couple of days.
Doubley off the front iron. Karakic loses it. And here's the run out for Jones. They're so quick.
Well, Pacific is really going to have to worry about defensive transition. They're going to have to get balance back. Bob Thomason talking about that with Mihailovic right now, signaling to him on the floor. This Washington team so explosive out of the backcourt.
One of the things you'll notice today is that Washington is one of the very few teams that send 5 guys to the offensive boards as Marker gets his first basket. And he really is the glue of this offensive basketball team.
Now, that's an interesting way to slow a team down. After Marker made the shot, he kind of let it hit his body, and the ball went careening out. And that takes a little time for Washington to get the ball out of bounds. A smart play.
Nate Robinson, and the former cornerback, takes it in amongst the taller Pacific front line. Not there for Simmons. Jones there for the follow. Bobby Jones, Jr. from Compton, California.
8 rebounds against Montana. There it is, the offensive rebounding. Pacific in a zone that time. It's a little more difficult to get bodies on people in that situation.
Robinson forced Doubley to pick up his dribble a little early. Yango far away from the basket, leaves it for Mihailovic. That's what these guys can do. All the players on the floor for Pacific can put the ball on the deck, and most of them shoot very well from the perimeter.
Do you think there's a correlation between the international flavor that's in that lineup? All of them are very skilled.
Yes, this is truly we are the world lineup. That's a double dribble as Doubley actually got that ball caught on the seat of his pants. Yes, you could strike up Quincy Jones's song, Yugoslavia, Bosnia, and on to Sweden for Karakic. He was recruited by Christian Moriker to this team for Bob Thomason, who made a trip to Scandinavia in 2000, and that's where he found all of this talent.
Oh, that's tough duty. I think either Bob Thomason or Kofi Annan can coach this team, one of the two.
Simmons runs the curl. Guillaume Yango, the rebound.
He's going to be a big key for Washington. I think he's the guy that takes big shots for this ball club, and he's the one against Montana that every time they tried to make a run, he was the one that stopped it.
Well, our Seth Davis back in the studio with Clark Kellogg and Greg Gumbel said that he would be the star of round 2. We shall see. Lorenzo Romar hopes not. Yango did not have one of his greatest performances against Montana, but everyone else did. There he is, locked up with Jensen, right on cue. Guillaume Yango ties the game at 7.
That was a great look by Pacific. They just emptied out the backside, and Yango did a nice job of keeping Jensen on his back.
James Jones takes it from downtown. Bobby Jones is very active early on. He has 7.
Jones, you have to pressure him. Not only good inside, but a 48% shooter from 3.
And remind everybody coming up, those of you expecting to see Utah and Oklahoma, 40 minutes past the hour will take you there. And off the steal, a foul committed by David Dudley.
Nate Robinson going flying into the bench, and already Dudley looking a little shaky here early in this game. Tim had the double dribble and then the steal turnover right now. They need to get him settled down.
He actually told us that the thing he was concerned about coming into today's game when we chatted with him yesterday was those passes. The first pass you make to initiate your offense, Washington, they take a lot of chances. They get into passing lanes, and he's very aware of that.
Well, and what they're doing, what Washington is doing, especially with Moriker, they're taking him out. They were fronting the 2 high posts that time and not allowing that entry pass.
Joel Smith into the game, can't hit, and there's a foul over the back. Hakeem Rollins picking it up, the senior from Mesa, Arizona, just into the game. Timeout, Washington by 3. Top-seeded Washington leads by 3. We were talking about Bob Thomas and how confident he is in his team, and why not. They only have 5 losses since January 1 of 04, when unbeaten in the Big West regular season. And I don't know of anyone that's enjoying the moment as much as Bob Thomason is, Mike.
Well, he talked to us yesterday, Tim, and the fact that they went through this last year, they were a little overwhelmed by the media and winning and all the attention that they were getting. Much better prepared to handle tournament situations this year, and I think it showed in how relaxed he was throughout this whole weekend.
20 minutes before the game, he came over to talk to us about how great last night was in the NCAA Tournament. Watched every bit of it. They've made their last 3 field goals. They trail by 3. It's been really Bobby Jones on the offensive end for Washington.
Interesting move by Pacific to let Mihailovic bring the ball up the floor and put Dudley on the wing.
Jones pulls up again. Well, he has 10 of the 13 for the Huskies. He's 4 for 4. The rest of the team 1 out of 5.
Pacific really packed in defensively, almost inviting that shot, but now Jones has proven that he can make it. You've got to come out and get a hand up on him and challenge.
Really put a body on Moriker here, and he needs help. Reikic comes up to get it, checked by Smith. Washington's defense really up in the Pacific grill early in this game, and that's one of the real criticisms of this Washington team, particularly by those that don't believe that they're worthy of a #1 seed. They usually give some space on the defensive end for the opposition to shoot.
Well, it's early, but so far that it's Washington's quickness that has trumped the length of Pacific here.
Roy. Brandon Roy, the junior out of Seattle. 5 minutes gone by here in Boise, and the top seed leads by 8. And again, second round action continues. For those of you expecting to see that game, we'll get you there as soon as it starts. Dangerous pass that Yango brings in. Reikic. Again, that was a force. Yango felt someone was on his arm, but no whistle.
The key part here early, the ball pressure by Washington. They're really making Pacific initiate their offense much farther out than they'd like to, and under duress, they've had to make difficult passes against this Washington D.
3 turnovers in their last 4 trips down the floor. And a youngster that had an outstanding day from downtown, Mike Webb, a career-high 15, number 3 for Pacific, is coming to the game for Moriker. He adds quickness and another 3-point shooter. Robinson. Oh! Yango clears it for Pacific. And here's Webb. He's one of those guys that can go for 20 in 5 minutes. Trying to work pick and roll. Yango really being pushed around. Smith finds Robinson. And there's the bump on Mihailovic. And I think you're right. It is that quickness of Washington. Brandon Roy off the dribble, attracting the foul.
Hey, look at you talked about Webb, and lower seeds in this tournament need unknown people to step up and make big plays. But right now, Pacific needs to settle down and find some rhythm in their offense.
Well, they've turned it over 5 times. That's 2 more turnovers than field goals early on. Johnny Gray has come into the game for Pacific, and Bob Thomason thought that his quickness would be very important today coming off the bench against Washington.
Well, he's the heir apparent to Dudley. Next year, he'll have the ball in his hand.
Robinson, nice spot, but he's rejected.
Yango.
Well, he and Newton. Tyler Newton is also on the floor. Tall, rangy youngster that can really handle the ball. Now floating down into the paint. There's Webb off the back rim.
Well, that denial of the passing lanes by Washington is forcing Pacific to do much more dribbling than they normally like to.
Robinson finding Williams. They were hoping for a travel. They do not get it. And Newton picks up the foul. Will Conroy coming back into the game, as is Christian Moriker. Nate Robinson sits down for the first time.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Talking to the players from both teams, especially Washington, talking about the lack of respect and the West Coast bias, East Coast bias that's out there. They really came into this tournament with a chip on their shoulders, wanting to prove that they are a worthy #1 seed.
Hey, we had Will Conroy telling us yesterday he thinks Channing Frye should get more pub from Arizona. These young men really do know the game. They appreciate the history of it as well. Foul against Moriker. Christian out of Sweden, as we mentioned earlier, and the first of the Swedes to join this team.
And so much of the offense runs through him. Washington is really, we haven't called his name out other than that foul too much early in this game. He needs to become involved. He's like a point forward.
Boy, a pull-up. Former starter that injured his knee, and Lorenzo Romar calls him the most complete player he's had the last 15 games. He's really meant a lot to his team.
And then Washington really looks in rhythm offensively on their own right. Only 1 turnover, shooting over 50% early in the game.
This pressure has really gotten to Pacific's offense. I think it's surprised them a little bit. It's very similar to what Arizona did to Utah State in the second half of our first round game the other night.
Well, you know what, and you made a valid comparison between Washington and Wake Forest. I think both teams really not known or talked about much about their defense, and sometimes overlooked. But Washington, I think, here early trying to make a statement that we can play that end of the floor as well.
Andrew Bogut fans, don't worry, we'll take you to him as they take on the Oklahoma Sooners. See if Bookout can block out against the biggest post player in the country. Big 12 already has one in the Sweet 16. See what happens with Kelvin Sampson's team a bit later today. 5 to shoot, time running out. Gray leaves it for Dudley. Oh, that's a big basket. Could be a momentum change in this game as Dudley ends that 10-0 run.
The senior making a nice play on that time, not trying to beat the clock, just went up with nice form.
Ray Simmons turned it over. Guillaume Yango coming towards him. His eyes got a little bigger.
Well, here's the look. Webb looked like he was in deep trouble, and the senior bails him out with a beautiful shot up front.
All you ask is a shooter's chance, and certainly Pacific has that. Quality shooters up and down their lineup and even on their bench. That's the story of the game right now, the turnovers. On the pop-out, Moriker, very skilled offensively. Leaves it for Dudley.
Right now, they can't get any touches inside on Yango. A foul right there. Jensen battling him, but they have really taken attention off of the post.
Guillaume wants a few more whistles. Washington by 7. Washington leads by 7. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski. One of the reasons perhaps that #1 seeds don't get as much respect out of the Pac-10 is what's happened in recent years.
Some early exits and all that group of Arizona, Stanford making it to the Elite 8, Tim. But, you know, actually Arizona comes into this with a little bit of a chip because they felt that if they had beat Washington in the Pac-10 tournament, they would have merited the #1 seed.
You know, Will Conroy was talking to us yesterday. I mean, that young man really does understand the history of the game and who's doing what in every time zone. He was absolutely laying it on the line about really how his team compared across the country with other power clubs across the country. Yango in traffic. Doubly, and there's a foul off the ball spotted by Michael Stewart inside.
Doubly, and maybe he'll get into his comfort zone as a scorer because they've taken him off the ball here, and he looks a little bit more calmed down in this game. Bob Thomason talked about the fact that in many instances he gets in a rush out on the floor, and I think that's what happened in the first 4 minutes of this game.
Doubly in traffic, rejected by Roy. That foul, by the way, was against Trey Simmons, his first, and the first foul against Washington. We've played almost halfway of the opening half, and only 2 fouls called. Make that 3. Marker lost it. Yango picks up the garbage and is bumped by Jensen, and that could be 3. It is.
Well, Pacific very fortunate in that possession that they get the lucky bounce inside. Clearly, Pacific trying to run through things through Marker, and they're keeping it out of his hands, and that would have been a turnover, but Yango staying right in there and making the play.
Well, tomorrow on CBS, a fun-filled Florida beach is invaded by college co-eds and killer sharks. The OC's Shannon Lucio stars in Spring Break Shark Attack tomorrow on CBS. Yango gets them both, and Matt Kemper comes into the game for the first time, senior from Fresno, and Guillaume gets a much-needed rest.
Pacific here, a little pressure up. See, there are a lot of times that teams that like to pressure don't like getting it in return. So we'll take a look and see how Washington handles a little three-quarter part.
Roy bounces it to Williams, and it leads to a foul. Kemper coming over, picks up his first. Marko Mihailovic will check back in for Pacific after this free throw. And Jamal Williams out of Corona, California, transferred from New Mexico. One of those many slashing players that knows how to get to the rim and get points for you.
Well, he and Brandon Roy, their 2 main scorers off the bench, just below 10 points per game. That's the firepower. Think about that, Tim. They each are 1 point away from having 7 double-figure scorers on average. That's astounding.
Huskies by 6. Washington's bench outscoring Pacific 5-0 here in the early moments. Mihailovic now on the floor along with Doubly, Kemper, Newton, and Moriker for Pacific. And there's Christian Moriker, and if they get him untracked, he will be tough to keep up with the rest of the afternoon.
Very skilled, 37% shooter from behind the arc, and the first good look that he's seen today.
Really the first time a perimeter shot, there was a space between he and the defender. And there's the answer. Every time Montana made a move on Washington back on Thursday, Trey Simmons made a big shot.
It's funny, Bob Thomason watching film of Washington, he looked at him, he said, his coach and said, look, I want to give me a 3-player like Trey Simmons. That's the model.
The ultimate small forward that could knock down threes. Doubly on the dribble drive, gets it to Moriker. That's where you want it. High, arching off the glass.
He's taken more offense into his own hands, scoring in the last 2 possessions. Nice post up that time. He had his defender on his back.
In the paint, doesn't go. Williams loses it to Mihailovic. Starts the screen and roll, but a nice show by Roy. There it is, though. He completes the move, just not the bucket. Simmons again. And the quick outlet to Doubly. It's a one-on-one break. Moriker there to follow, but too strong.
2 point-blank opportunities for Moriker that you have to convert.
This is Washington's game. Conroy collaborates with Roy, and it's 23-17 Huskies.
That's the difference. I mean, the Pacific had 2 great opportunities that they let go by, and Washington much more used to playing in that tempo.
Doubly leaves it for Moriker. Nice adjustment in traffic by Christian, and he goes to the left hand. 9 in the game for Christian Moriker.
Bob Thomason talked about how he he needs to get hit sometimes before he comes alive, but Morker has really worked his way into this game.
Simmons on the wing, doesn't get it to fall. And again, the strength inside, the offensive rebounding of Washington, a difference. Jamal Williams.
And they kept that ball alive so that he could be the second man in on the play, and that's such a smart move. If you can't get the rebound yourself, just keep it active so somebody else might be able to corral it.
Morker, and he is outstanding. Every place on the floor, he is lethal. Absolutely one of the toughest men to guard in the college game. Washington by 3 with 8:11 remaining, opening half. As you take a look at our game summary, we must tell you Washington got out of a great start yet again, but Christian Morker leading Pacific back. He scored 10 points in the last 2:20, Mike.
He has really calmed this team down. Turnover's an issue here early in this game, but I think Pacific has found a little bit of rhythm and some confidence, and they've withstood that first initial knockout blow by Washington. Good recovery on their part.
Jones and Roy have combined for 7 of 7 shooting for Washington. So they've been the go-to guys for the Huskies. There's Robinson penetrating to get his first bucket.
And again, we talk about the explosiveness of Nate Robinson at 5'9", fearless, going right at Yango, a very good shot blocker in his own right.
Out of the timeout, Mihailovic and Korajkic back on the floor. Kemper remains out there with Guillaume Yango down on the blocks.
Important time with Pacific with Morker out of the game to find another scorer.
There's a nice skip pass to Mihailovic. Boy, talk about vision and understanding spacing. That half-court sequence tells you all you need to know about why Pacific is as good as they are.
And Mihailovic is the guy who can extend the defense now. He's knocked down both of his threes in this game.
Yango, the rebound. There's a rare miss fired up by Bobby Jones. He had been perfect prior to that shot. Mihailovic with a little stop and go. Ooh, dangerous pass, nearly picked off that time by Trey Simmons. Nice backdoor cut. Mihailovic leaving it for Yango.
Great interior passing by Pacific, and Yango, all you have to do is have your hands ready as a post player.
Down by 10 at one point. They've tied the game with 6.5 remaining. Kemper just unable to deal with Jones on the low block, and he picks up the foul. 6:24 remaining. The Tigers of the Big West hanging with the bullies from the Pac-10. A very well-played game here in Boise. Tied at 27, Pacific the 8th seed against top-seeded Washington. Bob Thomason's club down by 10 points at one point. Have come back with a 20-10 run of their own against Lorenzo Romar's club, keyed by Christian Morker, the Swede that's got a sweet shot.
And it's really nice that, they showed a lot of poise in coming back, because you clearly see early Washington trying to set the tempo. They got up and down the floor, and more importantly, they got some turnovers. Pacific has done a much better job recently of taking care of the ball.
Inside Jones. I don't know that he realized how close to the 10 he was. It appeared that he was ready to pass, and then he realized, oh, I'm about 3 feet away. Might as well take it.
Well, he's already at his season average, Tim, and having a spectacular game early for the Huskies.
There's the lob from Mihailovic, a bit too strong for Tyler Newton. And Pacific turns it over. Marker and Yango, by the way, have combined for 18 points. Guillaume having a much better day. There's Christian on the bench right now. You see that shot between the eyes he took. He also got a headache the other day in the matchup against Pittsburgh. That was the 6th turnover of the game committed by Pacific, but their first in the last 8 minutes. Again, kept alive by Washington, but cleared by Guillaume Yango.
Boy, talking about 2 different styles to play against in 3 days. A bruising Pittsburgh team that's very physical up front, and then the lightning quick Washington Husky team 2 days later.
Newton fouled by Rollins. Hakeem, the senior from Mesa, Arizona. And Christian Marker making his way back in.
Bob Thomason trying to buy him, Marker, a few minutes here early in the first half because of the pace of the game. They're definitely going to need him in the second 20 minutes. He was out for an extended period of time, and he really was their offense in the first part of this first half.
Both teams shooting well. They committed the same number of fouls. Yango. Count the basket. It did roll through anyway, but it was interfered with.
And nice adjustment by Pacific. They've been overplaying that double high post. They emptied out the back of the zone and threw right over the top for the lob.
Conroy on the dribble drive past Yango. Jones all over the offensive glass. That's really been the catalyst for the Huskies so far. Bobby Jones so very active on the offensive boards.
And Tim, what happened on that play, Yango had it covered, but Marker came over as a second shot blocker, and that's what opened up the front of the rim. You see him coming into play right there. He's got to stay on the front of the rim as a rebounder in that situation.
Think about those games played last night, and it's amazing how much it means to make sure you block out and don't allow that second chance opportunity. Well, coming up at halftime, singular at the half, Greg, Clark, and Seth will get you caught up on all of the tournament news, plus a live look at all of the other action going on in the tournament, coming up on Singular at the half.
Well, Bobby Jones, a special place in Lorenzo Romar's heart, his first recruit at Washington.
Lorenzo was quite a player. A number of people have forgotten that.
I played against him for a few years in the NBA after he got out. Had a nice career. I think he's found his calling now.
Yes, I believe so.
The interesting thing is that he went back and he got his degree in actually '92 at Cincinnati, well after he was out of school.
Those little nuggets that make the G-Man special as we take you to this timeout. Washington leads by 1 in what has been a game of runs. Washington had a 10-love spurt after a 7-all tie, and then Pacific counter-punching with a 22-13 run of their own.
I think the pace that Washington likes to play at invites that. There are going to be a lot of possessions in this game for both teams.
There's a conversation going on. Donnie Gray, along with Trey Simmons and Jasko Karakic, and that's something you love seeing that with officials, letting them know, hey, a little too much bumping and grinding going on. Here's the deal. If you don't make the adjustment, we're going to begin blowing the whistle.
I always like referees that have conversations with players.
Yeah. Oh, and doesn't fall for Karakic. Pulled down by Robinson. They just beat them down the floor again, Mike. Jamal Williams.
Well, Nate Robinson, that was a fast break of his making. It looked like Pacific was in pretty good position back defensively, but they really never identified where the ball was, and he created that play by himself.
Webb, too strong. In his first 4 in succession against Pittsburgh. Robinson, that whirling dervish to Simmons. And on the glass, a foul spotted underneath. It will go against Washington. Nate the skate can scoot, and he leaves it inside for his partner. Washington leads by 3. Vote for your Pontiac game-changing performance of each round. Nearly $150,000 of scholarship contributions is on the line. Take action and vote now at ncaasports.com/Pontiac.
Tim, Christian Morker's at the line. I asked him yesterday if that the disparate backgrounds and countries that all these guys come from made it tough to become a unit, and he said quite the contrary. He said coming from different countries we have a respect for people, and he thought actually that made it easier for them to come together as a team.
Well, he comes up empty on the 1-and-1. That was the 17th foul committed just prior to the timeout. The first on Jones over the back. Well, Simmons and Robinson have struggled, but Jones has more than picked up the slack for Washington, mostly on the offensive glass. That time, Yango able to get position and clear the rebound.
Pacific spent a lot of time in that matchup zone and then done a nice job recently of limiting second shots.
Webb with the dump down to Yango. There's Newton. And the foul putback. What a day Bobby Jones has been having, Mike.
He really got off to a quick start. Was the offense for this team. 13 points in the game. Knocked down a couple of threes early. Then showed his versatility getting out and running the floor. He's gotten on the offensive glass. Really does have a terrific all-around game.
Trey Simmons picked up the foul, his second. And Tyler Newton, the senior from Burbank, California, gets to the free throw line.
This is the second game that Bob Thomason said Tyler Newton needs to be a factor. You saw his effort against Pitt, 6 points, 6 rebounds. Maybe the tallest three-man in the country at about 6'10". He is a tough matchup for any team.
Out of Antelope Valley Community and Shasta College, which is based in Redding, California. Prepped at Burroughs High School in Burbank. He's also the most charismatic player on this team. The power of positive thinking of Bob Thomason certainly translates to this young man. He predicted at Media Day, hey coach, after going 17-1 last year, I think we can go 18-0. I see no reason why we can't go 18-0. Washington by 2 with just over 3 minutes remaining in the opening half. There's a look against that zone, and you can see Conroy can't find anything. Jones with the dump down. Oh, nice touch pass to Williams. And credit Brandon Roy for understanding where he was.
Well, they'd spent that whole possession going around the perimeter of the zone, and they finally got a penetration pass, and that was a nice little touch move inside. Good interior passing. Got to try to find ways to get into the seams.
Yango feeds his man Newton. That's an offensive foul.
Here's the look, you'll see it inside, and then swing, you move the basketball from side to side, and then great interior passing.
34-30 with 2:37 remaining here in the opening half. Tim Brando, Mike Kaminsky. Washington and Pacific going toe-to-toe. It's been a fun first half.
We thought both teams would be willing to move the ball up and down the floor quickly. The pace set by Washington in this game.
Conroy off the bouncer runner. Senior from Seattle, local star from Garfield High School, only 6 miles from the Seattle campus.
He really has a lot of responsibility in trying to distribute the ball to all the scorers on this team, but that time he calls the old #1 play.
That would be the Spinarkle play for you, would it not? Nice pass inside Morgan. Rejected. Jones has just been all over the place. He and Jamal Williams, very active, smallish in stature, but certainly able to compete with a taller player with their hops.
Well, that was a nice tag team. Jones actually stopped the dribble, and Williams comes in from the back to clean it up.
Rakic inbounds to Yango. Look how hard they're working on Moriker. That was an outstanding defensive sequence for Bobby Jones, fronting and denying the leading scorer for Pacific.
And then he had 5'9" Nate Robinson coming from behind to help. Really conscious of Moriker and where he is out on the floor.
Rakic takes the seat, and Marko Mihailovic back on the floor now for Pacific. 15 field goals made, just a couple of turnovers. Clean first half for Lorenzo Romar's #1 seeded Husky. With the dump down. Nice quick-handed move by Mihailovic, swapping it away from Roy. Parker wants it. Oh, the iron unkind.
Moriker a little tired of banging inside, but he can drift out and hit that shot.
Conroy takes it right into the paint.
Washington has had a lot of success, Timmy, off the dribble against Pacific. They've been very aggressive in taking it into the lane.
Husky faithful getting into it as they rise to attention, and there's a block against Bobby Jones. Yet another run, this time of 9-1 for Washington.
There's the look, and terrific move inside, the little runner, the floater by Will Conroy inside. Pacific really has to be careful in this last minute and 2 seconds. Washington putting on a little surge going into halftime.
Against Pittsburgh, Dudley was outstanding, worthy of his Big West Player of the Year accolades. Monday on CBS begins with new episodes of Still Standing and Listen Up, followed by a special viewer's choice Everybody Loves Raymond, and new episodes of 2.5 Men and CSI Miami, plus The Late Show with David Letterman, Monday on CBS.
We talked about Tim Dudley struggling early, some turnovers, 3 assists to 2 turnovers, which is not his usual game, and he's also struggled from the field, only 1 for 4.
Hans Gasser is coming to the game now for Washington, number 22. Lorenzo Romar does not want Simmons and others to pick up cheap fouls towards the end of this half. And a timeout taken by the Husky coach with his team leading by 6. 54 to play here in Boise, Idaho. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, 38-32 our score. Lorenzo Romar's club believing in themselves, understanding that they have the opportunity to advance to the Sweet 16. And, you know, we were only a year or so removed from this team wondering whether they belonged in last year's NCAA tournament. But they're quick out. When UAB beat them, it gave them another reason to have yet another chip on their shoulder coming into the NCAAs this year.
And flat out, Nate Robinson said that's the reason why he came back this year. Unfinished business.
Conroy for 3. Robinson the follow. Conroy again saves it. And Mr. Robinson gets it, and the foul underneath against Joel Smith. They should count the basket, and they do.
It was a 3.
How about the workmanlike attitude of those 2 guards? Conroy and Robinson just on the attack.
Well, and you know, the point in fact that Conroy is the point guard on this team, but both of them are playmakers, and you see the hustle right there, just getting to the loose ball and the miss. And then on the backside, the pull down. Yangle will get 2 free throws as a result.
I think that sequence, more than any other, Mike, is one that really reminds a number of people of Wake Forest. It's a little bit like watching a Justin Gray and Chris Paul work together.
I think this scoring rate just bordering on Pacific's comfort zone.
Tuesday on CBS, The Amazing Race. Teams declare war on Survivor sweethearts, Rob and Amber. Don't miss a new Amazing Race Tuesday on CBS.
Certainly Pacific would like to keep it in the 70s if possible, so they're going to have to pick it up a little bit in the second half.
Iongo, 10 points and 6 boards. Well, Seth Davis said he would be a star in round 2. He's well on his way to a double-double. Shot clock and game clock, almost a virtual headlock between it. They can hold it for 1. Seth, Ian Clark Kellogg and Greg Gumbel will take you through the other action that's taken place today. Already an amazing win. The Texas Tech managing to make it to the round of 16. Conroy lost sight of the clock. There was a difference, 9/10 of a second. They set a virtual lock, but you would have thought they would have launched the ball with more than 9/10 of a second remaining.
And that's surprising that happened with both Robinson and Conroy out on the floor. That's the point guard's responsibility to know how much time is on the clock.
Really waited too long to initiate the offense, didn't they? I think Bob Thomason wants to find out where he should be able to trigger this ball in, how much time is remaining. It's really not enough for a catch. Well, you have a catch and shoot opportunity, but it better be quick. Washington leads by 7. Webb at the buzzer. 41-34 Washington. And coming up, Brett Gumbel in New York was singular at the half. After this message and a word from your local station.
CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the Men's Basketball Championship is sponsored by McDonald's, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Allstate, and by Pontiac.
At halftime, the top seed, Washington, leading in the Albuquerque bracket here in Boise by 7. Tim Brando alongside the G-Man, Mike Jaminski. We talked about Lorenzo Romar's comment that this was the most offensively efficient team he would face in Pacific. They've turned it over 8 times so far.
And it's because of Washington's ball pressure. They've really gotten after him out on the perimeter, Tim, and gotten Pacific out of their comfort zone. I don't like the angles that they're trying to use to get the ball into the post. They've really attacked the ball very, very well. And Pacific just needs to find some rhythm in this game. They've got 8 turnovers so far and need to take a little better job of taking care of the ball.
And that means shooting percentages can be affected as well. And as we look at the numbers in the half, shooting percentages for Washington good. They're getting it closer to the cup.
Well, conversely, yeah, and they have found their comfort zone, doing a lot of the things off the dribble. 52%, they're 44%. Both teams even at the three-point line, but Washington taking more, and there's the turnover situation. And because of the turnovers and offensive rebounds, Washington has 8 more field goal attempts in the game. And Bobby Jones getting out, really setting the tempo for Washington. They're here early. He's a double-figure scorer at 13.
Strike up the band for the Huskies with this kind of lead. And when you take into consideration that Trey Simmons and Nate Robinson combined are 3 for 11 from the floor, that's got to be a great concern for Bob Thomason, because he really hasn't seen the best that Lorenzo Romar's team has to offer, particularly from Robinson.
Well, and I think Pacific has to step it up intensity-wise on the defensive end. They were in that zone, but I thought they were a little passive in it, and Washington was able to not only get some interior passing, but break them down off the dribble.
David Dudley operating at the point as we get half number 2 underway. Guillaume Yengo has had a very good first half. He's 4 boards shy of a double-double. Trying to work pick and roll here with Dudley, and David takes the perimeter jumper. And the block out by Conroy. Nice pass to Robinson. Found the angle. Nothing but net for Nate.
And Dudley falling asleep, and Nate Robinson just breaking to the corner. Great ball movement by the Huskies. You can see how far out Pacific is initiating their offense, and Washington, that ball pressure, continue to push them out.
Newton in traffic, dumps it to Yengo. He missed from point-blank range. Those opportunities they have to convert. Simmons. Just like that, they're down a dozen, and Washington begins with a run to open half number 2.
What did you talk about? Robinson and Simmons, and Simmons just is cold-blooded out on the floor. He's got that look, and even though he's quiet in the first half, you know he's going to come alive here.
Lead with the dump down to Marker. And the Yengo tries to follow. Now Newton as they crash the glass. That was a much-needed bucket, even though there's plenty of time remaining.
You can see the length that they have down in the inside.
Robinson. We can find that crack along the baseline that few could fit in.
You know, he's a tough cover for anybody, Tim. But again, Pacific, just too easy. You can't let shooters get to the rim like that.
Hailovich lobbing to Christian Marker. Defensive work being done inside by Akeem Rollins, disrupting that play. Conroy, a little too much on that pass as he tried to find the open 3.
Here's the look inside, almost a deflection, and Moriker out of control coming out against a guy that quick. You've got to keep him in front. Use your size, try to make him at least retreat out into the corner.
Nate Robinson developed more control in his game this year when coming back to school. He was turnover prone a season ago. Dudley works past him, finds a little too strong, and Pacific rushing it a bit. Some anxiety in their shots. Simmons goes finger roll. And underneath, a foul spotted on the putback, and Pacific fans thought there had been a foul called earlier. There was not.
Technical foul on Bob Thompson. He is irate out of the coaching box and arguing that last call, and I think he might have had a pretty good case on that play. It looked like Newton was over there in plenty of time.
Well, Donnie Gray talking with Newton right now, but Thomason did pick up the technical.
Personal foul on Master Karakic.
Karakic got the foul, so the personal foul goes against him. A very crucial time to pick up a technical foul. Washington with their largest lead of 13 after Bob Thomason picked up a technical foul just a moment ago after Jasko Karakic picked up a foul underneath. He felt the contact should have been initiated from Washington to Tyler Newton, and the ball should have been going the other way.
Well, risky to give up 2 points in that situation, but I think Bob Thomason a calculated move to try to light a fire under his team, because after that play, Pacific went over and huddled up. Let's see if they can regroup here.
The Huskies have taken it right to them here in the second half, with Trey Simmons knocking down a 3 and Nate Robinson getting to the glass. After Bobby Jones led Washington in the opening half with 13 points, that's 2 over his normal average of 11 per game.
And his issue been over the last couple of years, and you see it inside the rush up the floor, and so many times you're not in good rebounding position. That was the non-call right there, and that really opened up the glass to Bobby Jones.
Thomason definitely had a point, and clearly Bob Thomason had come out of the coaching box, wanted to get the technical, and did.
Just like that, it's a 4-point play. And against a team as explosive as Washington, that's you don't want to be giving them 3 points.
Only led by 7 at the break, and they've extended it now to 16, by far and away the largest lead of the afternoon. Newton puts it on the deck, and there's a reach-in foul. Robinson coming from the backside. Let's see now, after that technical foul picked up by Bob Thomason, how that impacts the flow of the game with well over 17 minutes remaining.
And the referee's looking at Nate Robinson and his reaction to that play. You always have to be careful after that first technical is called. The pump is primed, and you have to be on your best behavior.
Yango using the window.
They've been much more aggressive on the offensive glass in the last few possessions. That tall front line for Pacific starting to pay some dividends.
Pacific's been outscored 25-9 since the game was tied at 29. Washington scoring very easily now.
Well, Pacific coming alive offensively too, but you can't trade baskets at this point. They have got to pick it up on the defensive end. Washington really just scoring too easily.
Hailovich been dogged by Conroy, and he's tagged with the hand check foul. First against Will Conroy, the senior from Seattle.
Well, let's see if the tighter whistle now loosens up that ball pressure on the perimeter for Washington, and it makes it a little bit easier for Pacific to get into their offense.
And that may be the method to the madness of picking up a technical foul, if you're Bob Thomason. He's still having a conversation with the officials. Yango waiting for a double team that's not coming. Jensen's playing with 3 fouls, so he offers little defensive support without the double team.
Well, that's good recognition, too, by Yango, taking his time and getting a few extra bounces and getting closer to the rim.
Simmons, Robinson, shot out of a cannon. Take a little bit of Spud, mix it with a Muggsy, and you've got Nate Robinson. Putting it on the deck.
Nice job just keeping it under control. Washington not reacting defensively.
How good is this?
Well, this is what kills you when your point guard gets in. It gets on the offensive glass for a finish. Only 5'9".
There's a look at Lorenzo Romar, and of course his star Nate Robinson. You have to feel pretty confident about your chances with him out there. Lorenzo fresh off an 8-year contract extension announced this week as his president Mark Emmert delivered the good news. 56-42 Washington.
Coach of the year in the Pac-10, very deserving. He's what a wonderful man. I played against him a number of years, have known him for a long time. We're the same class coming out of school.
This is a mismatch underneath as Roy has a smaller guard, and he draws the foul. I'm mentioning guys that you've known for a long time and players that you can certainly think of that had great careers. We made mention of Nate Robinson. What a unique. Is there anyone else that has ever played the game at that position quite like him?
No, he really is a hybrid. I mean, there have been shorter players. Like Spud Webb played above the rim but was very slight. Muggsy Bogues was very powerful but played along the floor. And he's really a combination of both, which is really unique. And certainly I think his football background helps him in that situation.
No questions of toughness with Nate Robinson. There he is off the inbound. 59-42. Washington 6 out of 8 this half. And Trey Simmons and Nate Robinson are now very much a part of the offense.
Last thing you want to have is a team feel comfortable playing against you. Washington is in a huge comfort zone right now.
And offensive efficiency is going to come into play now for Pacific. And Gray gets his first triple. 59-45. 5 minutes gone here in half number 2 in Boise. There advances to the Sweet 16. Robinson in traffic. And there's Roy to pick it up. There's Jones to follow. Longo and company get involved and a foul on the deck. Actually, they ruled it on the end line. It will be out of bounds to Washington.
I'm truly amazed at Washington, their ability to get on the offensive glass. And no really big players out there, but just so active. They're the first people off the floor to miss shots. 4 opportunities on that play, and Pacific is in a man-to-man, which you should be able to rebound better out of.
Joel Smith. Outstanding defender, not known for his offense.
Moroker's got to get involved here. He was the one who carried them in the first half and really sparked them offensively. They have got to have the ball going through him.
Webb wants it for 3, and he drains it. And if Moroker's taken away, that's the guy you look to, right?
He came alive a couple days ago. Certainly 5 3-pointers in that game, a career high for him.
And Washington really is taking Moroker away.
He was front and back on that last play with a dig in from the top.
Reach-in foul committed by Gray. Well, Monday, Dave's all new with Sandra Bullock, plus music from Gwen Stefani. The Late Show's all new on Monday. Brandon Roy will trigger it in for Washington. Nate Robinson takes a seat as Jensen's come back on the floor along with Conroy, Williams, and Brandon Roy for the Huskies. Again, Roy, guards really getting it done inside against Pacific's defense.
And they're just running people down into that low post, specifically him, and trying to look where the mismatches are, and Roy very confident on the low box.
Gray will stop and go and pull up. Oh, the iron kind, 61-50. Pacific has scored their last 6 trips. They trail by 11. That technical foul sequence and 5-point trip down the floor, in essence, the difference in this half.
Well, and I like the athletic backcourt that Pacific has out there with Gray and Webb.
Brandon Roy. 37% three-point shooter on the season. Gets the lead back to 14.
Boy, is he versatile, Tim. Going down on the low block. He's got solid moves down there, and then he can come out and knock down the 3.
Gray. There's Williams with the block out. And it'll go the other way. Last touch by Christian Moroker.
Here's the look. We talked about it. Brandon Roy, very solid. A couple bounces in with that left hand into the middle, and then the swing out on the perimeter.
64-50, Washington by 14. For the benefit of those of you that are seeing this Washington team for the first time, I think you can understand now why they're a #1 seed and why they were so worthy. Conroy finds Jensen.
And that's how he can get his baskets. Then you're concentrating on everybody else, and a lot of times he's the forgotten man and picks up a basket because of that there. He just got lost along the baseline.
And again, you see the denial of Moriker. Is there any question what Lorenzo Romar drilled his team on as that foul is picked up by Jamal Williams that far from the hoop?
0 touches for number 13, and somehow you got to shake him up and get some back doors, and there's Jamal Williams fighting inside. We talked about they like that double high set, try to make an entry pass, but all day long Pacific has had real trouble getting that pass made easily.
We talked to Lorenzo Romar yesterday, and we asked him of that efficient offense, who was the catalyst and who would you need to take away? He said without even flinching, Moriker, and he's done that after a pretty quick start by Christian to this game.
You know what, Tim, and one of the things we talked to the coaches, there's so much tape out there. You know, the general public may not know a lot about Pacific, but because everybody's on TV so much, it's a lot easier to scout than it was, and they had plenty of film to watch on this ball club.
Jamal Williams picks up his second foul.
Hey, solid.
Kemper for three. Rakic on the offensive glass and the putback. 66-52. 8 minutes gone by here in the second half. Jamal Williams, boy, every time down the floor, they're getting closer to 5 feet.
Yeah, the problem isn't offensively for Pacific right now. They've turned that corner. They just haven't made any stops down the other end.
Off the pick, Dudley, a runner. 68-54. Again, the oop into Roy, reversal, yes, and a foul.
Great look over the top of the zone.
High lobs and guards taking advantage, much to Dudley's dismay. Our tournament summary: Syracuse and Kansas in the national championship game 2 years ago. They're gone, and Bob Knight in his first Sweet 16 since '94 by virtue of that victory today over the Zags seen earlier on CBS.
What a great story for Montez, Tim. We watched that game last night. One of those special tournament moments.
There were plenty yesterday, no question about that. The lead is up to 17 now for Washington. Moriker. That appeared to be a tired shot. Out of bounds, last touch by Pacific. It'll go to Washington. When we talk about the ACC, considered top-heavy all year, well, living up to the billing. Pac-10 is 2-2. Both of their wins coming here. They've struggled elsewhere. The SEC really resurrected itself, its image with that Mississippi State blowout of Stanford last night. They had struggled in the opening round.
Arizona looking to improve in their second game. Keep up the Pac-10 image.
Jensen gets the rebound, but Rakic steps into the passing lane. And a run out for Dudley. At long last, an easy basket for Pacific. It's been Washington that's been getting closer to the cylinder in this half.
And I think they've got to stay in the man defense the rest of the half. They may switch it up a little bit, Tim, but they've got much better ball pressure on that possession and a turnover for an easy basket.
Jensen playing with 3 fouls on the pick and roll will take the 3. Williams the offensive rebound.
Talked about it. He thinks that the Washington lives on layups in transition and second chance points, and it certainly has become prophetic in this game with them on the offensive glass.
Gray fading away, right over Brandon Roy. The lead is 15 with 10 to play. Young man, Johnny Gray, that they're so high on for the future in Pacific, is now checking Trey Simmons. Robinson's out of the game, and this team does not skip a beat, does it? Conroy comes up empty. And a foul spotted on the breakaway. Christian Moriker got off to that quick start with 12 points. He's not scored in the last 18 minutes of this game, from the end of the first half to the opening moments of the second.
That is a great game plan by Washington and Lorenzo Romar to surgically remove him from the ballgame. He did have that little spurt where he was dominating things, but since that time, those numbers would indicate a non-factor. And they were going to make other people step up and beat them.
Trey Simmons, by the way, picked up that foul, his third, so he and Jensen each with 3 for the Huskies. this stage, foul difficulty not an issue with this much of a lead. Yango, yes, and a foul.
Tim, and rather than what they've been doing with initiating the offense with the two high posts, I like that little screen roll action at the top. They've had some success with that. I'd like to see them run that a little more. Yango, a nice catch and follow to the rim.
Guillaume, who played junior college ball just down the road at Southern Idaho in Twin Falls, gets to the free throw line. He's 1 rebound shy of a double-double. Not your quintessential international post player, is it?
No, very physical, loves the contact inside.
Oh, Kemper gets the loose ball. And McGuire falls through a big 4-point sequence for Pacific. And the foul against Karakic, who could not stay with Nate Robinson. Probably not a bad foul. That guy is a fast break waiting to happen in the open floor.
So quick, so low to the ground. You really can't. You can't reach on a player like that. You've got to play all with your feet. Just try somehow to keep him in front of you.
CBS Sportsline puts you on the court for this year's men's NCAA tournament. Get up to the minute scoring, streaming video highlights for every second round game at cbssportsline.com.
Talked about the fact that he applied for the draft last year, but withdrew, and really he wanted to be. He knew this team would be good with or without him, and those were his words yesterday. But he wanted to be a part of something special.
He has 15 points, 10 of them in this half. It's one of the 2 free throws, and they lead by a dozen. Crowd in Boise would love to get behind the underdog if they could make a run. Kemper's long shot does not fall. Karakic runs it down. He'll take that shot. Bang! Yasko cuts it to single digits.
And that was a lapse defensively. Jamal Williams, the junior, lost sight of where he was, and it gave him enough room to launch the shot.
And you can hear this crowd in Boise getting behind the underdogs, the upstarts from Stockton, California. A little bounce in their step. Pacific still with hope. Yasko Karakic from way downtown. Washington and Pacific in the Albuquerque bracket, trying to punch a ticket in there to take on Texas Tech next week. The Red Raiders, victory to take on, you take on Georgia Tech, and Louisville, of course, will be playing a bit later. Texas Tech has already moved in. Texas Tech, outstanding performance today. Washington trying to score here with Nate Robinson operating at the point. 10 to shoot. Robinson off the bounce against Dudley.
Dudley did all you could ask for defensively on that play, but Nate Robinson just trumps him with his ability to handle the ball and create space for himself.
High lob for Kemper, out of bounds. It will belong to Pacific underneath their own goal, and Tyler Newton will check into the game for the Tigers, and Kemper leads.
And I talked about Pacific on this end of the floor. They've played 12 minutes in this half without a turnover and shooting over 50%.
Nice inbounds pass to Mihailovic, and Washington went to sleep.
Joel Smith, the lapse in concentration on that play. Good hard cut inside.
Robinson. When you're that good offensively, you do have answers for your defensive breakdowns, don't you?
Well, and I think Gray or Webb have to come back into the game. That I don't think Dudley can stay with Nate Robinson, and they're having a little lockup right now. Robinson smiling at him.
Dudley going for the triple.
If you're Dudley, you can't take it personally, Tim. You've got to stay within your offense. I think Robinson getting into his head a little bit.
Jones stripped by Karakic, but they got him for the reach. Nate Robinson, he's tough when mano-a-mano. The old cornerback can. 78-67, Washington by 11. And Mike, as you suggested, Bob Thomason going to his quicker lineup, and doubly sitting down with both Gray coming on the floor along with Webb.
And that's a hard decision, Tim. And you're talking about the player of the year in the conference that you have to take out in an endgame situation, but just athletically, he can't stay with Nate Robinson.
Bobby Jones at the line for 1-1. This young man is Lorenzo's first recruit. He's improved in every area of his game.
His numbers at see double-figure score, very consistent. But I think the important thing with him, he really got this team involved offensively early, gave them a lot of confidence.
Washington by 12, and Lorenzo Romar's first recruit. Bobby Jones now up to 17, and the lead is 13 for the Huskies. 7:20 and counting. Changes made in that Pacific backcourt noteworthy. Webb, who is a streaky shooter, along with Johnny Gray, who's got it now. A change that you thought should have been made by Bob Thomas a minute or so ago, and a tough call for him to do what he did.
To take the player of the conference out in the form of David Dudley. But you have to look at the matchups out on the floor and what you need, and certainly Gray and Webb much more quick, much more active. Nice matchup between Gray and Robinson.
Look at that, both teams, Washington in both rounds, really shooting lights out, 55% and 56%.
I think, you talk about how Lorenzo Romar's built this team, and versatility, I think, is the key word, and balance. All players that can shoot outside, they can put it on the floor, they can post up and beat you in so many different ways. And then when they miss, they go gobble it up on the offensive glass.
Trey Simmons at the free throw line. He got out to a slow start, but he and Robinson have really picked it up here in the second half, particularly Robinson. Tomorrow on 60 Minutes, visit a place where the people have no concept of time. So how did they know it was time to flee before the tsunami hit? That story and more on 60 Minutes tomorrow. You think of that comparison that you made to Wake Forest, and the difference would be perhaps there's no Eric Williams type for Washington inside, but it doesn't seem to matter.
No, and you think of the concept of sending 5 guys to the glass, that you'd be susceptible to the break, but they are quick enough to do that and get back in transition.
Rakic being checked by Jones, and that extended defense continues to bother Pacific. It bothered Yango there, and Newton is there for the offensive putback. Conroy so confident at the point. Robinson stops in his tracks and drills it. Now, how do you defend that?
Just too quick off the bounce. 2 playmakers in the backcourt.
The Huskies have taken control of this one in Boise. Pacific, the upstarts out of the Big West, trying to make a run, and Yango is fouled underneath. Difference in this game, turnovers created by the Huskies defense and the ability to use that lightning speed of theirs to get easy baskets on the other end.
Pacific really has had no answer. They had one little stretch, I thought, where the defense picked up Tim, but Washington very impressive on that end of the floor.
And the Huskies with only 6 turnovers all day with the kind of play that they impose upon you. That's an impressive number.
That's again, I think that goes to the versatility of each player being able to do a lot of things. And really, if you look at it, this has been a very cleanly played game. Both teams combined for 14 turnovers. Pacific has not turned it in this half.
I think conventional wisdom was if Washington could get to the upper 90s or 100, they would win this game. Pacific could perhaps manage a victory if the score were in the 80s, but not more than that. Jones, very strong on the baseline. Bobby Jones having one of his best days ever. 19 for him, averaging 11 coming in.
Well, then that begs the question, if you're a coach who's going to approach this game, you're looking at a scouting report of Washington, who do you stop? Who do you focus in on? Everybody can beat you.
Well, they've already posted their season average in scoring. Karakic can't hit. Nice pass inside to Yango, and he's fouled on the way up. You have to feel for Guillaume Yango. He's given it all. His perimeter help has not been as good as he's accustomed. Bobby Jones picks up the foul. That's his 4th. coming back onto the floor now to replace Jones. And listen to the crowd respond to his play, and they should.
He has had an exceptional 2 games up in Boise. You see the numbers on Yango, 16 points, 1 rebound away from a double-double.
Yango gets one. 86-70 as Yango sits down, and Christian Moriker comes back onto the floor. Not that Jones can't score. Bobby Jones, who's sitting down, he's had big games, there's no doubt about that. But when Simmons and Robinson were struggling in the opening half, he really was the go-to guy, and he delivered.
And now at Pacific trying to push up a little bit, but it's very difficult with both Conroy and Robinson in the backcourt. They are a tough team to trap and press.
And a quick timeout taken by Lorenzo Romar. Just under 5 to play. Pacific trying to make a move on the top seed. (86-70), the Huskies by 16. And our CBS Sportsline stat of the game: field goal shooting percentage. Look at that, 67% in the second half. It's like rubbing salt in the wound to Bob Thomason's team. Get complete NCAA tournament coverage at cbssportsline.com.
Nate Robinson, a big reason of that, 7 of 8 from the field, and a lot of it he's created his own shot.
Back on the floor right now is Robinson handling the ball with Conroy, Simmons, Jensen, and Brandon Roy. Shot clock at 14.
Washington looking to be a little more deliberate in this, try to run some time off the clock.
I think that's what that timeout was about, huh?
Right, and then you have 2 guys in Conroy and Robinson again who can make a play at the end of the clock.
Absolutely. The lead is up to 18. Doubly a runner. This shot usually means a fast break, but this time Simmons wisely holds up, and they will dig into that clock a bit more, and Doubly picks up the foul.
There's Nate, and they got overextended on that 2-man game up front, and he's just so tough. I mean, how do you keep from getting split on that play? Under you, underneath you, around you, anyway.
Through my years of covering basketball, guards have always told me, man, I hate it when a guy gets underneath me. And Nate Robinson gets underneath just about everyone. There's his father is in attendance, and by the way, there is a strong lineage to Washington. Jacques was an MVP of the 82 Rose, also played in the 85 Orange Bowl. And Nate, of course, an outstanding cornerback for the Washington Huskies football team, and gave it up to concentrate on basketball last year. Jensen overplaying Moriker. They're still denying Christian Moriker, even with a 20-point lead.
And that gets a nice round of applause, not only from the fans, but the bench standing up and recognizing Jensen still hustling.
Christian Moriker scoreless for 24 minutes of this game. That's clamping down. Doubly. Loose ball tapped out. Robinson always quicker to it. Conroy comes away. Ooping. That's an exclamation point. Newton in traffic. Fouled on the block by Brandon Roy. How about that? Don't blink. The Huskies will slam it right in your living room. We could say on our game summary, take that, pundits, on websites. Washington playing like they're determined to remain a #1 seed and march on, Mike.
Tim, the thing that's impressive to me is the team speed of Washington. We talk about North Carolina and Illinois being able to move the ball up the floor. The Huskies get it up in a hurry. And they have really set the tempo right from the start in this game.
Tyler Newton at the free throw line for Pacific. When we were talking with Will Conroy yesterday, fans really getting into it now, and they should. I asked Will Conroy about the turnaround game, and he immediately pointed to a late season game a year ago against NC State, and then they came back into the conference, one against Arizona, one against Stanford. And at that point, they felt like they were a program about to become nationally significant. And there you see again Trey Simmons hitting a 3.
Well, they do put out the lights on the scoreboard, don't they?
Oh, it's amazing. They've made 7 straight shots. Webb from the corner. And again, Simmons clears it. 3-on-2, Conroy back to Jensen, and he's fouled by Christian Moriker.
You know, I talked to Lorenzo Romar yesterday, Tim, and he said the Pac-10 championship was huge this year because this team really hadn't won anything. It lost last year at the end of the year. It lost in the title game, and it lost its first-round game in the NCAA. So to have something under your belt, a title, was a huge boost coming into this NCAA.
Vote for your Pontiac game-changing performance of each round. Nearly $150,000 of scholarship contributions is on the line. Take action and vote now at ncaasports.com/Pontiac. Mike Jensen's family is here. Mom and dad, grandma and granddad, and they are certainly enjoying this effort. After 3 early fouls, he's certainly played smartly since. 12 possessions, 12 scores for Washington.
Which team were we talking about being efficient?
On the wing, Johnny Gray. Jensen clears it. Outlet to Robinson.
Surprised he pulled back. It was 1-on-4. He probably likes those odds.
Well, that's really one of the differences in Nate Robinson this year. Lorenzo Romar will quickly point to his assist-to-turnover ratio, and it is much different than it was a season ago. Conroy, he's the historian of this team. Roy with the dump down, tough pass, really to make. It was kicked a fresh 35. I need to tell our fans this too. Will Conroy at the conclusion, there's Jensen and Roy sitting down. At the end of our meeting yesterday, Will Conroy looked at me and he said, that big fella is, he's done a lot in this tournament in the past, hasn't he? I said, yes, he has. He came over to Mike Jaminski and said, I need your autograph before I leave here.
Which is, you know, impressive because as far as these kids are concerned, you know, I played after the earth cooled.
Well, it's a piece of memorabilia for him from this tournament. Smith. Hans Gasser loses it to Kemper. And Pacific has it the other way.
Well, another interesting note, we talk about the one picture they have up in their locker room.
Oh, yes. Incredible. The picture that means so much to this team. The Edward Jones shot. They've never really talked about it.
Nope. There's nothing written on it. It's where the Final Four is going to be played in St. Louis. And there's nothing up underneath.
Yeah.
It's just a picture of the building.
Meet me in St. Louis, Louis.
Yep.
Meet me at the fair. They're hoping to have their version of a Broadway play in St. Louis in a couple of weeks. A lob going for Smith, taken away by Pacific. Michael White on the floor for the first time, number 51 for the Tigers. Loose ball, taken down by Conroy. On his own. And an over-the-back foul committed. Well, today's Chevrolet players of the game. Guillaume Yango did his best, and for Washington, Bobby Jones. In recognition of their determination and outstanding play, Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund, Chevy, and American Revolution. The last game for that senior, Guillaume Yango. He had a stellar career. Alan Purnell at the free throw line. And for Washington, next up, the winner of Georgia Tech Louisville. That game to be played in Nashville tomorrow. The crowd responds to Nate Robinson, Conroy, and Smith as they check out. The Huskies have certainly sent a message that the tournament selection committee and Bob Bowlesby made the right call on a #1 seed.
First, #1 to make it through.
Washington 58% shooting on the afternoon, only 7 turnovers all day long. Matt Fletcher is going to get a little playing time, and Trey Simmons leaves for the Huskies. And Lorenzo Romar, really, coaches love getting to do this, having an opportunity to get ovations for all of their starters and give some of those scout team players an opportunity to get in the box score. Gasser off the front iron. Coming up, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Boston College. Nevada against top-seeded Illinois, and UAB, Arizona here. UAB and this Washington team were locked in the highest scoring game of the NCAA tournament a year ago. And I think it was one of the motivating factors for the Huskies once they got to Boise this week.
Let's congratulate Bob Thomason and his Pacific team, too. And they had a marvelous season, and they've done it consistently over the last couple of years. So he is building a tradition of getting to the NCAA tournament.
I'll close out a 27-4 year. And one of the most enjoyable coaches to be around. He'll still enjoy the tournament even if he's not in it. Long rebound to Gray. He's the future of this Pacific team. The Huskies were just too much, too quick, too often, and Johnny Gray gets the runner. 97-79, and Washington is on their way to Albuquerque. Punch them a ticket as the #1 seed out of the Pac-10. Let's go to New York.